Hi, Mark. It's great to have you on board. It's great that you're being part of this EdTech Leaders sessions that we're doing at the moment. You know, it's really good to get a broad range of different people from the industry and talk about what they do and why it's important as far as the education sector is concerned, and especially probably EdTech as much as anything else. And I know you've been in the industry for quite a while. So
Yes.
you know the industry well, and I know we're going to talk about many other things as well, not just necessarily SBS, so school business services. But to start off with, just give us a bit of a broad understanding of what school business services do. You know, why you think it's important. You know, why it's important to have these companies in the particular market, EdTech market as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So School Business Services was founded by myself and Tina Brown in 2008. We both came from different backgrounds. I came from the private sector, and Tina come from banking, and having worked in a council. And we came together at a previous company that was doing some really innovative things, but the company itself didn't work out. So when that went into administration in 2007, Tina and I decided to get together and start our own business, doing exactly the same things really, which was providing finance, MIS, IT support and budget planning software to schools. It was something that we really enjoyed, something that we thought we were good at. We'd never run a company before. We'd never read the manual on how to be a director or anything like that. And some would probably say that we're still in need of reading that book. But we started the company 2008 with a few schools on board and 25 staff as well. So, and we basically just strapped in and went for it. And it's been a really interesting and enjoyable journey. We still love what we do. We think we're really relevant in terms of giving schools a choice. And, you know, the last 5 years, we've become, I think, much more relevant because of the changing landscape in terms of academies and everything breaking up and to be much more commercially minded. So the services that we provide are always around customer, value for money. We've never changed in terms of our values, and they've served us well. It's our 12th year now, and this is the first time we've actually put a sales team together. So everything has been built. Just looking at the school numbers now, so the 1,700 customers that we have across the board have really been brought in by the work that our teams do, the consultants, the referrals, the word of mouth, because they are really good at what they do. So, as I say, and we're just putting a sales team together because we were acquired by Supporting Education Group in March.
Yep.
And that's been a really positive move. There are a great bunch of people with similar values, similar mindset in terms of really wanting to do the best that they can possibly do for education and our children via the services that we provide. I have no qualms about saying it. I would like to save the taxpayer a lot of money via our services. I think that the things that we do have a really good knock-on effect.
Cool. And geographically, whereabouts are you spread?
So Tina lived in Poole, and I lived in Milton Keynes. So funny enough, we have an office in Poole and an office in Milton Keynes. Tina's office is much larger than the Milton Keynes one. And that's the head office. So SBS is based in, basically, we're about the southeast corridor, really. And so we've got lots of schools in London and around the home counties and down on the south coast. But with our software, we're all over the country. And we're growing north as well. So we've got, as part of SEG now, we've got more satellite offices and people that we can use and work with and take advantage of. So we're growing in terms of the geographics.
And have you found that you've expanded on your services that you deliver to schools, or are you trying to maintain? Because I do know some of the people who work for you, and absolutely, wow, sure. the depth of knowledge about Shava, that is massive. So I can understand why people find the experience of working with you really gratifying and success. Why you're successful, really.
Yeah, they all have a habit of making me look good. So they're they're amazing people, and I'm sure you know some of the people, as you said, Viv and Layla, Rich, and all the guys there. And the consultants themselves are just really passionate about everything that we do and the jobs that they do. And you can't put that into people's job descriptions that, you stay another 2 hours in a school because they've got deadlines to meet. It's just the commitment that we get in this industry never fails to, it ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, it's an enjoyable company that we have. It's a very nice company to work in, I believe.
Okay, and has the business changed recently? So ultimately, there's obviously now, and there's been massive changes in EdTech, especially around the MIS, which we'll come on to. Like with all the different sort of people either purchasing, merging. So have you found that's changed the way that you've had to deal with business, or have you still focused on the same sort of areas as such?
The headlines have stayed the same. So finance and business, MIS, IT, budget planning. We do some HR, but what's beneath them, the subheadings have always changed. They've always evolved to adapt to the market. So the last 2 years, we've been really pushing hard on the managed services for our services, because we believe that they are the real value services that multi-academy trusts and federations and maintained schools should be looking at, because we believe that we can take the strain from schools in terms of, but leaving all the strategic decision making within the schools. We need to help them with the just the sheer workload. And our services are, the managed services are designed to do that. We offer obviously the strategic consultancy on all of the services as well. But we're really pushing the managed services because we see efficiencies there. We see value for money. The managed service is never off sick, and it will deliver against your requirements every day of the year. So it's something that we're really passionate about.
And do you think so obviously with money coming out of the local authorities, are you seeing there's more opportunity? Are you seeing that you're having to subsidise some of the services that necessarily came in from the local authorities before? I'm guessing you are, actually, if you're delivering managed services.
Yeah, but it's the way we work our services we have our set profit targets and our margins that we have from the outset. We believe, and I know a lot of people are saying this at the moment, but COVID has almost helped our services in terms of we were always at the front of remote services and delivering things remotely. The software out there at the moment is so good that you can do most of this stuff remotely. It's just the concept was a bit, schools are just too busy, I find, half the time to actually be able to just say, do you know what, I'll look at that next year rather than looking at it now. And we've seen a shift towards much more quality planning time during COVID. And we've had our best year for sales, I think, ever, because of the quality time that people have got. And thankfully, most of the people in schools are not ill, and they're still doing their jobs, and they're devoting this time to what happens next. I mean, who knows what the new normal is going to be? So I think a lot of disaster recovery, business continuity planning is now in the education sector, which for us is a great thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever I talk to people in the EdTech sector, everybody has to remember that, for a head teacher or for the school itself, the teachers, the tech is not actually the most important thing. The most important thing is that they're able to teach and they're basically in front of their kids and, they're basically, they've children learning. That's the key focus. And technology is there to enable that. But ultimately, you can't look at things like MIS or any other sort of like HR or any backroom management tools as critical as such. I know they're important, but they're not necessarily critical as much as teachers. And so anything you can do to free up time is definitely a strength and added value.
Absolutely, and that's our message at the moment. And the marketing is all around. Okay, you've got the well-being of your children now on top of the education, which is the paramount thing. All of these extra things that the COVID is demanding from education is sucking even more time out. So, and I think the managed service term probably needs to be a bit softer, but it really is a support mechanism for schools in terms of, and it's not taking anything away. We're talking about taking away processing that can be done in an office via a professional service level agreement, so you can do the more important things, really.
And I suppose, because it sounds like you're constantly listening to your schools to understand where their pain points are, and then readjusting the services potentially to meet those pain points. Do you think the more commercial sort of support teams will start expanding more and more in their services? Yeah, will especially with MATs now as well, and academies. Will there be a much greater level of going into different areas, not just maybe the traditional ones?
Absolutely. I think it really is now, and Capita Sims has been fantastic for SBS, and we've lived a good life with it. We like the product, we like the people. It's commercially, it's a great agreement, but we always knew it was going to come to an end. We didn't quite know how and we didn't quite know when, but we always were planning for it. So Viv and the team have had, and we've looked at various software over the years in terms of the MIS market, and it's only recently, the past I would say 4 or 5 years, that there's been a viable alternative to Sims, and that does the job it should do. I mean, millions and millions of pounds have been pumped into education MIS systems, as you're aware. But what system did the job, and what system could you put your money on being there next year because they were making money themselves? So
yeah.
It was a really key decision, and obviously the two other products that we're accredited with, Arbor and ScholarPack, they've proved themselves by being really good pieces of software in the first place, but resilient companies as well, with good backing, and that's as important as the product itself.
And do you think you will see a point where you'll recommend MIS, or do you think you're always sort of work with the school to identify the right MIS that suits their needs? Do you see what I mean? There's either a more of a consultancy view you can take on it and say, well, do you know what? We're happy for either of these three, or potentially you might sort of go, actually, we always think this one is the one that's going to deliver the best solution.
It's a really good question, and the thing that I sort of irks me is when the vision for a trust is driven by the software instead of the vision driving the software, and choose. So really, what we're about in our services is understanding what a trust or a federation of schools or a group of schools want to achieve in 2-3 years' time, and then we can fit solutions and software around that, rather than choosing the software at the outset of the journey. Because you don't want to, well, the obvious things are, you don't want to be locking yourself out of things you need to achieve by choosing the wrong software. And procurement's a really key thing. So our consultants are very aware of, yes, we have our accredited products, but there's always a decision to be made depending on what type of trust we're talking to.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So in answer to your question, I don't think we'll ever out of the gate just recommend an MIS or a finance system or even an IT. I mean, Google and Microsoft, we still don't we recommend that either or one of them, never the same one, because there's different scenarios for each.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because I think, like ScholarPack, and I've obviously introduced Rich on these sessions as well, and and I think they've done a really, really good job of focusing on one particular segment rather than worrying about how do we take the whole of the UK sort of schools market. They focus really, really well, I think, at the sort of primary schools. I won't say small primary schools because I know Rich doesn't like me saying that, but ultimately the sort of primary schools that they focused on. And I think it's quite interesting with Juniper coming out now with which used to be Cooper Asset, but Horizon. And I think that'll be an interesting where that goes.
Oh yeah, I mean we like the Juniper guys. We think they're going to be a real player in the market going forward. They've got a really strong senior leadership team. I think they're going to be quite powerful in the market. They seem to know what they're doing, and they've got a direction of travel that I think is going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting where they're focusing very much on the primary sector at the moment, I think, and they're consolidating all those sort of trackers, or bringing them under one umbrella at least anyway. So I think that's so where they go from there will be interesting, I think.
Yeah, consolidation's a nice word, and consolidation and integration seem to be really key words in the market at the moment. Does anyone actually know a truly integrated product with for MIS, finance, HR, and things like that. That's the holy grail for us.
I agree with you. I think it'd be interesting to see. I think there's lots of people talking about it. When somebody's going to get there, I think it's going to be really interesting. And obviously, that's going to cost a lot of money for anybody. So it's going to have to be one of those big sort of PE sort of backers, or somebody's going to have to do it from organically. But that will take time. But there's Iris now just bought iSams.
Yeah.
They've got sort of financials. They've got PS Financials. They've got other sort of solutions as well, which are already in the education market. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think there's definitely this element of consolidation, trying to create a single solution to take into either the primary sector or potentially even into the secondary sector as well.
Definitely. As I say, I mean, we're really good friends with Iris and the team there, and the iSams acquisition is. I think that's what the market needed. I think that I really welcome that news, and I'm really excited because from our Dubai operation, we got to work with the iSams team, and we put iSams into a few schools. We know it's a really good product, and you have to be able to survive in the international market and grow that without a doubt. So they've got a really good product there, and they have all the pieces now at Iris. They definitely have all the pieces to put it together, and hopefully SBS can be part of that as well in some way.
Yeah, you definitely. It must be quite interesting for you guys at the moment. Well, it's a great opportunity, isn't it? It's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, so I was talking to a trust the other day, and they said, "Look, I've got all these pieces of software, and they're all really good in isolation, but it costs me as much time to work in between them than it does for the software itself. I'd rather you just put these together and made my life a lot easier." And I could not disagree with him. And that's something that we're looking at the moment.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because when you look at things like Group Call, their integration, and you also look at Wand. So do you see that in the future potentially there is no need for those integrators, because you're just going to have big sets of companies delivering a full set of suite for education? I suppose there'll still be satellite products though.
Yeah, I think no one will ever have the whole piece for every kind of school, but I think there's my money is definitely on Iris to get it right within the next couple of years, to have 70-80% of that, and then still use the APIs and Wand and things like that, because they're really smart pieces of technology that make your life so much easier. So we've benefited that ourselves with our budgeting software to link to PS Financials and Sims. It really is a really neat piece of technology.